Hi everyone, welcome to a new Craft Kitsune video. This is the May 2021 video, so we'll be going over how you can make these Japan-inspired beads and charms from the May kit. If you're not familiar with Craft Kitsune, it is a monthly craft subscription service run by me, Liz. I am also the sole employee of the company. It heavily focuses on resin crafting. You can find out more about Craft Kitsune by going to the main website. There you can also see all the past kits, shop any kits that have stock left, and other supplies. You can also read our reviews on Trustpilot there. And of course, you can select a plan and become a subscriber if you aren't one already. Alright, with that little introduction out of the way, let's get into the May 2021 kit unboxing. This month features a lot of small materials, so just keep that in mind. Please read over the supply list and make sure you account for everything in the kit before you accidentally throw anything away, such as these tiny silicone rods. And now let's go one by one into each supply. First up, we have the supply list, and then there are some instructions on the back, and the illustrations are done by my sibling as usual. Next, we have our set of exclusive molds, and these designs were created from scratch by me in a 3D modeling software and produced exclusively for Craft Kitsune. So the designs are inspired by Japanese culture, so we have a daruma. We also have a maneki neko, and then a lantern design, as well as two small molds here, and they are coin options for the maneki neko. To go along with the molds, I curated an assortment of findings that go along perfectly with the designs. First up are these eye pins in different finishes, and they are long enough to go through each of the designs if you turn them into beads. More on this later in the video. We have a few lobster clasp lanyards, so these are useful for turning your projects into little keychains. And then we have these bead caps that fit perfectly onto each of the designs. Next up, we have one of my favorite craft supplies. It is a Posca paint marker in 1M in the color black, and this is my most used Posca size and color. So to open them, you'll want to just twist it. This is the best way to get off the wrapping. When you first open the marker, the nib will be completely clean, and then in order to use it, you will need to prime the pump. So you'll need to take a napkin or something similar and do this jabby 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 until the ink starts to flow out of the nib. And then next we have our clear UV resin, and then it does have a seal you will need to remove from the bottle before using. And then our final supply is this set of 5 silicone hole makers, and they are silicone sticks that are clear so that you can create holes in various molds that don't have like a hole built into them. So yeah, they're just silicone, so they're bendy. Alright, so now let's jump into the tutorial portion of the video. I'll be making at least one of each of the molds or designs. So I'll be using all of the supplies included in the kit, and then I'll also be using some of my own supplies or from past kits. So first I have this silicone mat that I set down to work on. I have this silicone mixing cup for the UV resin, and then I also have a couple stir sticks to mix colors into the UV resin and mix it up. I also have this gold pigment powder, and then some alcohol ink. This one is a green color, and then some glitter. To cure or harden the UV resin, you'll need a UV light or lamp. You can use the sun, but it's much more convenient to use a UV lamp. Now that I'm ready to get started with the UV resin, I'm putting on some nitrile gloves. So now I'm going to squeeze out a generous amount of the UV resin into the silicone cup. Then I'll add just a very small drop of the green alcohol ink. And then finally for my mixture, I'm adding some of this really shimmery silver glitter. And then I'm going to mix it all up, making sure the alcohol, ink, and glitter are fully dispersed and even within the UV resin. Then I'm going to take one of the silicone sticks and put it in the middle of the Maneki Neko design. And then I'm going to pour in my UV resin around it. Alright, stop here. This is when I realized later that I had made a mistake. Instead of pouring in the UV resin all at once, what would have been better is to pour thin layers at a time. So pour a layer of the green UV resin, cure it under the UV lamp, and then go in and pour another layer until it reaches the top. So please work in thin layers if you're using UV resin. You can also use epoxy or two-part resin for these molds, and that's especially useful if you want to make your resin opaque or solid in color, because that works best with two-part resin, as solid UV resin can take a while to cure. So after I made that mistake with the Maneki Neko and Daruma molds, I went ahead and cured both of them under my UV lamp. I held the sticks in place in the middle, so like so, under the UV lamp, just for the start of the curing process, so that they wouldn't move around during the curing process and that they would stay in the middle. And then after it was stable, I went ahead and cured them more for about 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to be making a golden lantern, so I added some yellow alcohol ink to the clear UV resin, and now I'm adding some of this gold powder. I took a little bit of the UV resin and put them into the coin molds first. So one of the coin molds is a completely blank coin, and then the other one has a kanji inscription on it. So I found for the lantern mold, the best way to pour is to take the little nub or cylinder inside of it and kind of push it to the side, and then pour in the UV resin on the other side so that it can go all the way around the mold. I like to add a little bit of UV resin on top of the cylinder, and this will cause the hole to close a little bit on the lantern. However, I like this method because it ensures that the UV resin is covering the entire lantern, including the piece on the top of the lantern that I'll paint black later. So keep a little mental note of that. I'd rather do that than pour too little and have that part missing. And then once I unmold it, I'll just use a craft knife to cut open the hole, because it will be a very thin layer of UV resin. Alright, now I'm going to cure all of those pieces under a UV lamp for a few minutes. Alright, now let's demold our pieces, starting with the tiny coins. For the other pieces, I like to push them out by pulling down the edge and popping them out. They come out relatively easily, actually. I was quite pleasantly surprised by this. So here is the Daruma. And then next we have the Maneki Neko. And then lastly we have the lantern. If you used the silicone hole makers, you can take those out now. Alright, so now let's start with the finishing touches, which will vary depending on what look you want to go for and your own personal finishing touches. But here I am adding black acrylic paint to the kanji inscription on the coin, and then you'll take a cloth and wipe it all off, and you'll be left with just the engraving painted. I use a Posca marker to outline the eyes of the Daruma. I also filled in the face with opaque white UV resin. I also use the marker to paint the top and bottom portions of the lantern. When you're ready, you can add the bead caps or the eye pins to your pieces. So here I'm using some super glue and putting one of the bead caps on top of the lantern, and it fits perfectly on top of the lantern. The bead caps also fit on top of the Maneki Neko behind the ears, and they also work well with the Daruma. If you turn your design into a bead using the silicone hole maker, you can take one of the eye pins and thread it through. You can use them in combination with each other, so you can combine them using some jump rings, or you can use them in your other jewelry or accessory projects. Here I have some gold leaf paint, and I'm going to use it to add some brush strokes to my Daruma. Daruma are dolls used to mark progress towards a goal. So when you receive a Daruma, the eyes will be blank inside. Once you have your goal in mind, you can fill in one of the eyes. And then once you reach that goal or that wish, you can fill in the other eye. My goal, as always, is to grow and improve Craft Kitsune to bring even more and better boxes to you guys, as well as welcome new subscribers. Alright, now let's take a look at some of the projects I've made, both as part of this tutorial as well as off camera. So here are a few I made, mostly in this video, and then here is a handful of a bunch of different ones I've made. Alright, and then a little preview of the next kit, so the June Craft Kitsune box. Here are some of my projects from the May box. Inside of this shadow box, which will be a exclusive mold for the June kit, you will be able to make your own shadow boxes. So here is the shadow box, and you can also make a lid that fits over the entire shadow box. If you're a current subscriber, I hope you're looking forward to the June kit. If you'd like to become a subscriber, you only have until May 31st in order to sign up in time to receive the June 2021 Shadow Box Kit. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you again in the next month's video. Bye!